Welcome to the third episode of Dr. Lukman's Perspective. I am your host, Salihu Lukman, and today I will be introducing a series titled Psychology Series, consisting of 4 parts. The first part is titled Understanding Child Psychology and Why Corporal Punishments Should Be Abolished in All Schools. Part 2 is titled Understanding Adolescent Psychology and Where Parents Go Wrong. Part 3, Understanding Personality Psychology for Better Interpersonal Relationships. Part 4, on why a psychology subject must be introduced and made compulsory for all students in senior secondary school. Today I will be discussing the first part, which is understanding child psychology and why corporal punishments should be abolished in all schools. And my target audience are, first, teachers in primary schools and secondary schools, as well as parents or potential parents. To begin with, let us start by defining what psychology is, which I coined our intangible remote control. Psychology is simply defined as the study of mind and behavior, and it encompasses many other aspects that affect how we think, how we act, and how we also feel. These aspects can be broadly grouped into 2, nature and nurture. What is nature? Nature consists of all those hereditary or genetic factors as well as biological influences, while nurture includes environmental factors as well as social pressures. These 2, nature and nurture, shape our psychology, shape the way we think, act, as well as feel. As a disclaimer, I am neither a psychologist nor am I a psychiatrist. However, as they say, experience is the best teacher. I am a son, a brother, a father, a husband, a teacher with about 24 years working experience at all levels, starting with primary school, junior secondary school, senior secondary school, remedial, university, undergraduate level, master's level, up to PhD level, as well as administrator. I have always been fascinated with the way people think, act, and feel, and have always been trying to find answer as to how is it that the behavior of person A is so much different and entirely sometimes opposite to that of B. I barely knew the difference between introvert and extrovert until around November in 2018. That was when I started reading articles on psychology, personality types, personality disorders, and all that. And whenever I do my study, I consult medical doctors as well as psychiatrists to corroborate my findings and my conclusions. That has seen me into detecting and identifying certain personality types in individuals. I claim no mastery in that. I am still learning. But I have a lot to share with my viewers on this subject. What is personality? Personality is the way of thinking, feeling, and behaving that makes a person different from or similar to another person. And it is what makes you who you are, and many factors that contribute to the person you are today, including genetics and upbringing, as well as your life experiences. That is nature and nurture. And to my understanding, personality is simply an individual's psychology. While personality may remain fairly consistent over time, I want to assure you that it can also evolve throughout one's lifetime depending on certain factors and conditions. And understanding personality allows psychologists to predict how people will respond to certain situations and sorts of things they prefer and value. In other words, response can be modeled. I will not dwell on the 5 personality traits and personality types A, B, and D for brevity. Having defined personality, the next is personality disorders, which are characterized as chronic and pervasive mental disorders that can seriously impact a person's thoughts, behaviors, and interpersonal function. Basically, a personality disorder satisfies the following. 1. Deviates from the expectations of the culture and causes distress or problems functioning, and it lasts over time. That is chronic. And people can develop a personality disorder in childhood, adolescence stage, or adulthood. Some people may have signs and symptoms of multiple personality disorders. In fact, more often than not, they co-occur. And Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, that is DSM-5, broadly defines 10 personality disorders, which are grouped into 3 clusters, cluster A, B, and C. And being diagnosed with a personality disorder can be distressing, but you should know that there are available treatments and coping strategies. And depending on your specific diagnosis, your doctor might recommend either psychotherapy, skills training, or medication, or in some situation, a combination of all 3. A personality disorder is also called a mental disorder, or mental disability, or mental impairment. A spectrum of mental disorders consists of mild, moderate to severe, depending on the number of symptoms satisfying a given disorder. In fact, all so-called mad persons suffer from one or more mental disorders. Not all persons with a mental disorder are qualified to be called mad persons. In fact, using the word mad to a person who suffers a mental disorder is a social stigma that has to be abolished, because it prevents other less severe patients who suffer one mental disorder or another to seek medical help from a psychiatrist. And as part of the social stigma, anyone who sees a psychiatrist is automatically considered a mad person. This has got to stop, and this is not true. Strictly speaking, I think there is no mad person. Those roaming the streets in the form of mad persons are normal individuals, only if they can be properly supported and taken care of by their family members. Mental disability or impairment is something that most of us have in one form or another. Yet, one can live a near normal life with a mental disability if the necessary medical and family support are available. Mental disability can take the following forms, which are common among individuals. Number 1, different phobias, such as fear of spiders, cockroaches, height, injection, air travel, etc. cognition, such as above average or below average mathematical problem-solving skills or memory. Histrionic, which encompasses attention-seeking and other dramatic behaviors. Now, the million-dollar question is, why don't we call anyone who exhibits any of the above mental disability a mad person? Why don't we call someone who frantically screams at simple injection a mad person? Let us stop the social stigma and seek out mental health support, even when we have just a persisting headache or a persisting tension headache or difficulty falling asleep or recurrent low moods. Just last year, during the global lockdown resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, I successfully detected attention deficit hyperactivity disorder in 3 persons, a 10-year-old girl, her mother, and father in this order. What a retrospective detection. I hope to one day host this wonderful family and get a sense of what it takes to live with and manage ADHD from a practical viewpoint. ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is more prevalent in boys than in girls. Some studies have reported a ratio of 5:1 and sometimes continues up to adulthood. This is what happened in the case of the girl's parents. I know the child in question since birth, her crawling and toddler years, as well as her behaviors with her peers and academic performances. She was practically like my own daughter, raised under my tutelage. I received the following complaints from the girl's parents. 1. Often fails to give close attention to details or makes careless mistakes in schoolwork or other academic activities. 2. Often has difficulty sustaining attention in tasks. 3. Often does not follow through on instructions and fails to finish schoolwork or other assigned duties. 4. Often avoids or strongly dislikes tasks such as schoolwork or homework that require sustained mental effort. 5. Often loses things necessary for tasks or activities such as school assignments, pencils, books, tools, or toys. 6. Often is easily distracted by extraneous stimuli. 7. Leaving seat in classroom or in other situations in which remaining seated is expected. 8. Running about or climbing excessively in situations where this behavior is inappropriate. 9. Generally be described as always on the go. 10. Excessive talking. 11. Blurting out answers to questions before the questions have been completed. If one carefully analyzes each of these 11 complaints, the beating type of a parent or teacher would think that everything will be put under control with beating. But I want to assure you that no amount of beating can change any of these complaints, because they form part of the girl's personality, which in this case has turned into a personality disorder because they affected the girl's functioning significantly for some time at school and home. After a brief reading on children's personality disorders with ADHD in mind, of course, I concluded that the girl suffered from ADHD. The girl suffered from both attention deficit type or attention deficit disorder, identified by symptoms 1 to 6, and hyperactivity disorder, identified by symptoms 7 to 11. I advised the parents and the girl's teachers not to beat the girl, come what may. I suggested to them some strategies on how to cope with a child who has ADHD symptoms based on my research. My suggestions yielded positive results, and the girl's performance in school has also improved. Beating a child for any wrong act does not help anyone, so long as that act is part of the child's personality. This is because you cannot change someone else's personality. Not even the person himself or herself can change that. Our personality is our intangible remote control, as I would always say. We can only discover it and then learn how to live with it. Beating a child only helps to temporarily hide or mask the child's personality, and it never results in any positive outcome in the long run. Masking a child's personality could have grave long-term consequences. For instance, untermed oppositional defiance disorder, ODD, in children could metamorphose into antisocial personality disorder, ASPD. A child with untreated ASPD could become sociopathic or psychopathic in adulthood. Parents and teachers should also familiarize themselves with conduct disorder, CD, for better management of children with such a disorder. From the foregoing, all children's behaviors in school or at home can be adequately explained using ADHD, ODD, ASPD, or CD, and subsequently managed. Knowledge, as they say, is power. Corporal punishment has no room in the effective management of the misdeeds of children. And understanding children's psychology is the key to the management of any children's negative actions or inactions. And lastly, anyone who beats a child is only displaying his or her ignorance on children's psychology. And it is even one of the greatest injustices to judge a little kid using an adult scale of intelligence and intuition. For more resources on psychology and psychiatric disorders, you can visit verywellmind.com, which is a very good site suitable for laymen like me. You also have medscape.com, which has more technical information, but more exhaustive in treatment. Thank you for listening.